War used to give the wounded time. In Ukraine, that time is disappearing. Cheap drones now watch open ground so constantly that movement becomes exposure. The wounded wait longer, and rescue begins to fail. But the drone is only the visible part. Underneath it, a colder logic is taking shape. Cheap machines, familiar controllers, distance turned into advantage. And it does not stay politely at the front. The same logic that traps the wounded in open ground is already moving toward the places civilians still think belong to normal life. The airports we fly through, the refineries our cities depend on, the infrastructure we still assume sits outside the reach of war. Once killing becomes cheap, watchful, and repeatable, distance stops protecting people the way it used to. The real question is no longer whether drones changed war. It is what happens when war stops behaving like battle and starts behaving like a system that sees more, adapts faster, reaches farther, and scales beyond the speed people can survive. The system underneath the drone is not one weapon, not one pilot. It's a chain. See, track, adjust, strike, repeat. The controller feels familiar because familiarity is the mechanism. The interface no longer belongs only to soldiers. It belongs to anyone already fluent in screens, reflexes, and remote control. A battlefield once had dead ground, blind spots, moments to move. This one doesn't, because once enough cheap machines can stay overhead, open space stops behaving like terrain and starts behaving like a kill zone that corrects faster than people can escape it. That is how the wounded lose time. That is how rescue begins to fail. And that is how war starts shifting away from courage, mass, and firepower toward a system that does not just watch the battlefield, it studies it. The drone no longer matters only as a weapon. It matters as a sensor, a collector, a recorder. Every flight sees, every strike captures, every failure teaches. The battlefield is no longer just a place where war is fought. It is becoming a place where war trains itself. Combat footage turned into data, patterns turned into software, software injected into indefensible hardware. That is where this stops being mechanical and starts becoming intelligent, not as a robot soldier, not as some distant future, but as a machine that keeps refining the kill chain faster than the humans inside it can recover from the last version. That is what makes this dangerous, because once war becomes software, the dead do not just disappear, they become instruction. The system no longer has to wait for adulthood or train instinct to start shaping its operators. Now it starts much earlier, in classrooms, in camps, on screens. In the Russian-occupied territories, children have already been pushed through patriotic military education, weapons handling, and drone-related training. On the Ukrainian side, recruitment is specifically targeting 18 to 24-year-olds. The pattern is different, but the logic is no less revealing. Adaptation is valued as much as endurance. That is the shift. The old military machine had to build soldiers first. This one can start with a generation that already understands the interface. And once a system can identify those skills, it no longer has to train the instinct. It can simply reward it. Speed rewarded, precision rewarded, distance rewarded. That is what makes this colder than conscription, because the system does not just ask for bodies. It begins by rewarding the people already fluent in its logic, then pulls that fluency deeper into the machine. War does not need everyone to become soldiers. It only needs enough people who already think like the interface. What is being refined in Ukraine is already reaching far beyond it. Dubai International Airport, Haifa Refinery, Gulf energy infrastructure. Not trenches, not front lines. That matters for one reason. This form of war no longer begins with rare military hardware. It begins in the ordinary places modern life already trusts, in the screens our children grow up inside, in a culture that keeps making distance, control, and reaction speed feel normal. That is how war gets closer to home without looking like war at first. It starts feeling cleaner than it is, more virtual than it is, and the line between skill, violence, and consequence begins to blur. So the danger is no longer only what explodes, it is what quietly prepares us for it. That is where this story ends. Not in Ukraine, not even at the front, but in the realization that the next society facing this may still believe distance is protection, right until it looks up. The event may change, but the system beneath it doesn't. The next one is on screen now.